Welcome back to the Wayne State pregame show here on WDTK The Patriot. I'm Brady Beedon, and joined as always by head coach Tyrone Wheatley. Coach, let's talk about last week's game. You lose in the last seconds to Concordia. Simply, what was the message to the team after, and what's the message to the Warrior fans that had their hearts broken on Saturday night?
Well, like I told you, the message doesn't change. And consistency, right? You have to be consistent in your message, because here's what entails the big deal is. So the kids this weekend used the word frustrated. Frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. Well, you were frustrated last year. You were frustrated in 2021. And so when you talk about being under stress and feeling stress and annoyance with the inability to change, right? So the message to them was the inability to change. That's the whole part. They have to change. They have to understand why it's happening. Because it happened last year a few times, right? I think in 4 or 5 games it happened where you lost the game in the last seconds, in the last minutes. And so for me, my message is always consistent. Make sure you are accountable to your players. You understand who the guys are that don't really understand the scheme. You know the guys who don't, that are really not out there playing 100%. So people can say, well, that's on the coaches. Yes, it is. But at the same time, the locker room always takes care of itself. So the message is always consistent. We will look at the film, we'll figure it out, and it all comes down to execution. Did you execute the plays that were called?
And I think that's a good segue into, because at least what I saw, physically, on paper, thought you had more talent, more athletic. That Concordia team's mentally tough. They expect to win. Seems like you have some of the physical traits you need, like some of the guys that, hey, they can run the 40 fast enough, they can put up a big enough bench press. How do you get that mental side? Is it just what we keep saying, time, and it's a slow process? The mental side isn't just something that you show up on a random Wednesday and it clicks all of a sudden?
I'm going to go back to the once to win, the word, right? Competitive what? Stamina. Competitive stamina. If you've never been put in this position and it was never preached to you, it's hard. Right? Concordia is maybe 10 years old in their football program. And so that's being preached. And I'm pretty sure that program didn't start off the way it looks now. Like you say, they expect to win. These young guys right now, their competitive stamina is there because I'm asking them to compete in so many areas that they're going to go up and they're going to come down. At the same time, if you don't have it, I must go get it.
Michigan Tech's coming to town. And they're probably thinking, all right, this is a chance to come down. We got shut out this past week. We can go get one at Wayne State this week. What do you see about Tech? Because I think you're going to say it's a lot of what we've seen. They might not be the most super talented team in the world, but Michigan Tech is a team that rarely ever beats themselves.
You said it, right? I mean, and here's the thing about all these football teams that we played up until this point. Evenly matched. Athletically, like you said, there's no one on that field that's physically imposing that we can go out and say, hey, they're physically more dominant than we are.
Right.
We haven't played those teams. Right now, I'm in the process, and I'm working through where we're not beating ourselves. And that comes down to execution with the competitive stamina, being able to stay in it regardless of the circumstances, being able to stay in it and not put your head down and say, oh, my God, here we go again. But staying in it. But also not get complacent when you're up, right? So when you look at the film last year, those were all the same things. And you're coaching those to get that thing, to get those situations out those guys' mind. And so when you look at Michigan Tech, who's coming in, once again, here's a bend but don't break defense. They're going to give you 2 high safeties, roll down to cover 3, keep everything in front of you. They'll give you everything underneath. But I guarantee you this, once that ball is out the hand, all your up front 7 guys from the defensive line of those linebackers, they are pivoting and they are flying to the ball. Those black shirts and white shirts, whatever their home colors or away colors are, they are flying to the ball. There's always about 7 or 8 guys to the ball. That's team, right? That's I love playing for my brother, and that's where we have to get to. That's on the defense. Offensively, once again, they are going to just pound the rock and make sure that you tap out.
You mentioned the word frustration, and I get it. I mean, I think everyone's been there as a player. You don't start off how you want. It's at least if you're frustrated, that means you care a bit, that you want to have the success. But how do you wipe away the frustration of a 3-game losing streak and get ready for a Tech team on homecoming? A lot of alumni are coming back. How do you get that mentally prepared as a coach? Because if you're not ready, if you're still dwelling on last week, you and I both know Michigan Tech will come here and they don't care about it.
Yeah. So we use, right, we talked about being upset versus frustrated, right? Well, like I told you, feeling annoyance, right? Feeling stress or annoyance. The annoyance and the stress it's on the player.
Right.
I'm not blaming the guys. It's the truth, right? When people say, well, look at their offense, look at the defense. No coach in America calls a defense where the gaps are not covered.
Right.
The players are not covered. It's the player that has to execute it, right? Mm-hmm. And so you don't think about last week, but you have to take those issues and get them corrected, or else it will continuously happen over and over and over again. Or when you get up, you can't get complacent and say, hey, we have it, and then all of a sudden get hit with a bomb. You can't do that. So A, complacency, and B, execution. That's what this thing comes down to. And then the players have to understand what are their responsibility. What's their responsibility? It's the days of the 20-hour rule. I didn't have that when I was in, so they kept us out there all day until we got it right. Start the period over from the top, right? But now you have the 20-hour rule, which means that we only get them for so long. But these guys have to go and say, what are the techniques I am not good at, right, and go outside and work on it on their own. What film do we have to study? I have to really understand my opponent and really get this down pat and understand who this guy is, learn him, understand him, know what he eats for breakfast, who his girlfriend is, what's his mama name, right? Have to know all those things about your opponent. And these guys have never been in that. That's why I'm talking about the competitive stamina. Yep. These guys have never been put in that position. But when it click for them and when it gets for them, we'll be just like those teams in this conference, if not better, at closing games and finishing games and winning games.
All right, Coach, final question real quick. Keys to a homecoming win against Michigan Tech.
Well, go out there and execute. It's plain and simple. You must go out and execute. No matter the circumstances, no matter what goes on, you must execute. And the last portion of the thing for the key to the victory it's once again playing complementary football. I think we did a little bit better job on special teams. We didn't start as an offense, with 80 and 90-yard drives. We started in pretty good field position. Offensively, we kept the defense off the field. Those guys look really fresh out there. And when they look fresh, they look good. But at the same time, you can't do the things that shoot yourself in the foot and give them, access to an easy touchdown.
All right, Coach, I appreciate it. Good luck at homecoming against Michigan Tech. He's head coach Tyrone Wheatley. I'm Brady Beedon. You're listening to WDTK The Patriot.